We thank the candidates for joining us, and we appreciate all the delegates taking time from their weekend to join us as well. With that, we will get started. First, we will be hearing Attorney General. Candidate Rob Bonta will do an opening 3-minute statement just for all the candidates who are here, but I will repeat this as we go forward for people who come in late. You will hear music you'll see the timer in the top right of your screen. Is that correct, Jeff? Top right. And you'll hear music when the timer is off. You can complete your sentence, but then we will be muting you. The questions, as Jeff just said, will be posted in chat in case you haven't heard them. And with that, we will get started with Rob Bonta with a 3-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Honored to be with you. Thank you for all you do for the party, being the heart and soul and the backbone of the party and the most influential state party across the nation. Thanks for holding our elected officials accountable, advancing our values, making sure we retake the House, and all the important things that you do. I'm grateful to be here with you. Please know that I will always have the back of our party, and honored to, in the past, have earned the support. Hope to do that again for my re-election for California Attorney General. I was, as you know, appointed and then won a full term, and am running for re-election to my second and which would be my final term as AG if I have the honor and privilege of serving again. And I was born in another country. I was brought here by my parents when democracy and freedom and human rights were being taken away by a dictator rising to power. And exactly a year from the date of my birth, martial law was declared, and my parents brought me here to California, and they knew we had to fight for the things that we wanted in our country. And they were activists and to the core. They worked for the United Farm Workers of America. My dad had marched in the civil rights movement in Selma before. And my mom continued to speak up as I grew up, going to demonstrations and rallies with her, calling out the human rights abuses of the Marcos dictatorship. And that always planted a seed in me, a desire to always want to serve and to make our community better, to have a say in our future. And as California Attorney General, I've had that honor. And things changed quite a bit with respect to my role when President Trump won his election just a year ago. We are now 55 lawsuits in to suing Donald Trump. We are suing him more than once a week. He has been a repeat offender when it comes to lawlessness and trampling over the Constitution. And as a result, he has become a repeat loser. We have beat him 80% of the times in our lawsuits. We've gotten 13 final judgments. We've got 35 temporary restraining orders. We've protected $188 billion in funding that he unlawfully tried to take away from California. And we've protected constitutional rights like birthright citizenship, the right to vote. We were able to demilitarize our cities here in California when Trump wrongfully deployed the National Guard. And we will continue to fight. I got a full tank of gas. I'm full of energy, ready to roll whatever happens next. We know he's escalating. We know he's getting more desperate. And so I will stand at the boundary of his authority and make sure he never crosses it, and protect California in the process. And I know that this is a time to step up and stand up and show up. And thank you for not feeling hopeless, because we're not helpless. We have agency, we have people power, we have an ability to fight back and advance our values here, make sure that California's progress continues. So stay engaged, stay enraged with this president's blatant, brazen violations of the law. And I know together we will see brighter days ahead. Thank you for having me. I think I'm at 3 minutes, and happy to answer your questions.
Perfectly, thank you. We will now go to the question section. There will be 2 questions for you, and you have 2 minutes to respond to each one. And I'll hand it over to Joanna.
Hello. First question. We saw what happened in Minneapolis with ICE. How can California realistically fight back against this federal intrusion and keep communities safe while holding agents accountable? In addition, how do you plan to hold California agencies accountable when they illegally share information with the federal government?
Let me answer the second question first, and then I'll answer the question about Minneapolis. We have a law here in California, SB 54, California Values Act, passed in 2017. It prevents the sharing of certain types of information with the federal government by counties, by law enforcement agencies, by cities, police departments. and when it comes to immigration enforcement. So as the Trump administration took office, I sent out a notice to all of our law enforcement agencies, reminding them of the obligations under the law. It's not, my policy position or my desire that I was expressing. I was expressing the law and its requirement. And if sheriffs or police departments improperly share information in violation of SB 54, I will take them to court. And I've said that then, I said that now. There have been examples of sheriffs talking about their desire, I think trying to feed red meat to their base, but not doing. We haven't seen the evidence that they actually took action behind their verbal statements. When it comes to Minneapolis, there are a number of tools that we have. So I'll just set them forth. We do expect the possibility of a Minneapolis coming to California, and so accountability is absolutely critical. What our Congress does right now in getting reform with ICE is going to be very important. But we have the opportunity to sue agents when they break the law, and there's the No Kings Act moving through the legislature right now, which creates a clearer path. Senator Wiener is authoring that. That's an important bill. And I and the governor recently sent out guidance showing, reminding folks that law enforcement has the ability to hold federal agents accountable. There's no absolute immunity. It's not futile, as Todd Blanche has said, and we can investigate, arrest, prosecute those federal agents when they break the law.
Great. Thank you. Second question. With increasingly more and more civil rights being taken away from the people of the United States by the Supreme Court, how can California ensure that women are able to keep their bodily autonomy, and how do we keep members of the LGBTQ plus community safe while safeguarding their freedoms?
Great question, and I'll just add one more thing on the Minneapolis, a final thought. We joined as an amicus in Minneapolis's lawsuit against the federal government for militarizing their state, and we think we can bring a similar lawsuit if there is a metro surge type of action in California. So the Supreme Court of course, has undermined reproductive freedom with the Dobbs decision that rolled back Roe versus Wade. They've taken decisions that have harmed the transgender, gender nonconforming LGBTQ plus community. And California has charted our own path. We doubled down on our commitments to both communities. We enshrined in our state constitution, as you well know, with Proposition 1, the right to an abortion, the right to contraception. We have laws that protect our LGBTQ plus communities and transgender community. I will enforce those laws. Those are the laws of the state of California. And we are in a very significant fight with the federal government that targets reproductive freedom, that targets our LGBTQ plus community, that targets our transgender community. And we have stood up and fought them time and time again. And as long as we have laws that protect our people, I will enforce those. There could be a time when there's a federal decision that is supreme to or overrides some of our protections, but that hasn't happened yet. And in the meantime, we are fighting. We're fighting in court. We're fighting in the legislature. We created and I supported stronger protections for our LGBTQ plus community, as well as for reproductive freedom. And we are a safe haven when it comes to care and rights for reproductive freedom and for LGBTQ plus community members. So. It's important that we fight, and as AG, important that we enforce the laws, and I will.
Thank you. And now have an opportunity for a 2-minute closing statement.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been an honor of a lifetime to serve as California Attorney General. I never thought that it was a role that I would have the privilege of being able to serve in. I grew up in the Sacramento suburbs, and both my parents were card-carrying union members of what is now SEIU 1000, and they used to take me to work on certain days, and I'd look at the Capitol and wonder who was inside, and I'd look at photos of the folks there, and no one looked like me, and I thought elected office wasn't for me. But I always wanted to have a say in our future, to tackle the problems that we're facing and make tomorrow more fair than today, right wrongs and fight injustices. And as AG, we're able to do all of it, from tackling public safety like fentanyl and human trafficking, tackling public safety issues like human trafficking and fentanyl and organized retail crime, to pushing local jurisdictions like Huntington Beach to build more housing, protecting reproductive healthcare access and quality more generally. I've been very aggressive when it comes to the climate action, gun safety, and also protecting California from a lawless president who is attacking our core constitutional pillars here, attacking the separation of powers, checks and balances, rights and freedoms. And right now, it's important to stand up, to be strong, to double down on California's future values, people, progress. And I have been able to do that for the last year when it comes to Trump. We got 3 more years left of this term. And so my place is here on the front lines, serving as Attorney General, fighting for all of you, fighting for our values. And I hope I have the honor and privilege of earning the support of the Democratic Party and the ability to continue to serve, to fight back against Trump and fight for California and Californians. Honored to be here with you today. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all the important work you do for our party and our people across the state and beyond.
Thank you so much. Now we will move on to the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Our 5 candidates will each have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we will begin with Josh Newman.
Did not see that coming. Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Democrats. Thank you for convening today's forum. Thank you for having me. I'm Josh Newman. I am a former member of the California State Senate. I'm an Army veteran, a graduate of Yale University, someone who built a career in private service before answering the call to public service. I was first elected in 2016 as the first Democrat to represent my Orange County district in over 40 years. In the state Senate, I authored more than 40 bills on subjects as diverse as mental health, worker protections, veteran support, environmental protection, recycling, election reform, and modernizing California's public schools. I also chaired the Senate Education Committee, presiding over more than 500 bills, including my own legislation, which guarantees daily recess for elementary schools, expanding access to college-level coursework, improving teacher preparation, and requiring at least one gender-neutral bathroom in every California public school. California's public education system is massive. It has 5.8 million students across nearly 1,000 districts, spread out over 58 very different counties. California education is also deeply challenged. We like to boast about having the 4th largest economy in the world. We should also have the best public education system, but unfortunately we do not. Depending on the metric, California currently ranks between 30th and 38th, with more than half of California students not meeting standards in English or math, and only 31% right now testing as proficient in science. Even more concerning, the gaps between well-resourced and under-resourced communities continues to grow. I am running for state superintendent because California can and must do better. My priorities as SPI are clear. Every student, especially undocumented students, deserves protection. We need to better align the school day with the workday. We need to strengthen workforce preparation. We need to center climate education. We need to rebuild civic education so that California leads the nation once again in producing informed, engaged citizens. And we should always remember that everybody, whether you have kids in school or not, has a stake in the quality of public education in California. So looking forward to today's conversation. Thank you again for having me.
All right, Rocky Fernandez, Region 8 Director. I'm kind of steering the ship here on the back and forth. We're rotating all the questions, not using titles. Feel free to share your own. Next up is Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you. Good morning, Democrats. My name is Nichelle Henderson. I am a career educator running to be the state superintendent of public instruction. I've got 30 years experience in the classroom, starting my career in education as a parent volunteer, becoming a classroom aide, being employed as a 6th grade teacher, teaching math and science. And currently I am boots on the ground in the classroom, preparing our next generation of teachers that are becoming elementary school teachers. I'm running because I live the realities of our K-12 classrooms, and I see the harm that is done to students when to their academic and economic outcomes when there is legislation that is passed that is misaligned with the implementation on the ground, when we have far too many unfunded mandates. And also in our areas where our environmental issues are impacting not just our community and our students' health, but their ability to access their education. My vision for California is simple. It is to fully fund our public schools, increase Proposition 98 funding, and make sure that as the fourth largest economy in the country, that California covers the cost for educating our students, respects our teachers, and brings our community schools back to the community. We need to pay our teachers a living, thriving wage. We need to reduce our class sizes, and we need to adjust the way that we test our students and protect them and ensure that we are providing true sustainable opportunities and pathways for their future success. Thank you.
Well done. Next up is Al Maritsucci.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Democrats. My name is Al Maritsucci. You can just call me Al. And I'm proud to join all of you to seek the Democratic Party endorsement. I'm a classroom educator. I teach government at my local community college, a proud member of the American Federation of Teachers, Local 1388, a former local school board president, and now California Assembly member and chair of the Assembly Education Committee. On a personal note, I'm a proud son of immigrants, a product of public schools, and a first-generation college graduate. And I know that I'm a true believer in the power of public education to change lives, just like it has changed mine. I'm running for state superintendent because I am that true believer, and I've been fighting for public education for decades. And we know that now Donald Trump is attacking public education, dismantling the United States Department of Education, and attacking our most vulnerable students. Our next state superintendent needs to have that track record of fighting for our schools and getting things done. I have that track record as chair of the Assembly Education Committee. I've been fighting for years to fully fund our schools, to pay our teachers more. Last year, I got the California Safe Haven Schools Act signed into law to keep ICE out of our California schools. Also last year, I worked closely with our labor friends to crack down on charter school fraud and corruption with my Assembly Bill 84. And a couple of years ago, I worked with Equality California and the ACLU to fight book banning by getting the California Freedom to Read Act, AB 1825, signed into law. Last but not least, I was the lead author of Proposition 2, the $10 billion statewide school bond to fix and upgrade our schools. I'm proud to be endorsed by the California Federation of Teachers, California School Employees Association. Look forward to our discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Richard Barrera.
Thank you so much. I'm Richard Barrera. I'm currently Senior Policy Advisor to our current Superintendent Tony Thurmond at the California Department of Education, where I lead our work on protecting our immigrant students and families, on providing affordable housing for our educators throughout the state, on improving student wellness and mental health, and reducing chronic absenteeism. I'm also the president of the San Diego Unified School Board. We're the second largest district in California, and I'm in my 18th year on the board. And our story in San Diego is one of rejecting austerity, rejecting attempts to privatize our schools, turn them over to charters, to reduce our curriculum to what can be measured on standardized testing. Instead, what we've done in San Diego Unified over 18 years is we've invested in our educators, in our students, and in our schools. We actually have the largest facilities program of any district in the state, larger than the state's entire facilities program, and that means our students are going to state-of-the-art learning environments, and they're thriving. We've also raised salaries for our educators 40% over the time that I've been on the board, and provide fully paid family health benefits. And now we're embarking on the most ambitious attempt to provide affordable housing for our educators of any district in California. And the results of this investment strategy is that among all large urban districts in the country on what's called the nation's report card, San Diego Unified students rank #1 in both literacy and math. And among large urban districts in California, we're #1 in literacy, math, science, graduation rates, college career readiness rates. We want to bring this example throughout California and show what can happen when we invest in our public schools.
Thank you. All right. Next is Anthony Rendon.
Morning. Good to see everybody. Anthony Rendon served in the state legislature from 2012 to 2024, served as Speaker of the Assembly from 2016 to 2023. Prior to that, I ran early Head Start, infants and toddler programs, as well as state-funded preschool, state-funded childcare, and state-funded migrant farm worker programs. A graduate of the Cal State program, graduate of, got my PhD at UC Riverside, attended Cerritos Community College. So I, transversed the state's entire public education system. What I learned as a student, what I learned as the dad of a daughter who's in kindergarten at public school here in Southern California, is that the system works for some, but it doesn't work for all. During my time in the legislature, I was proud that we increased per pupil funding when we started, my class and Al's class, when we started in 2012. We were around 47th in the country. Now we're in the top 10 in terms of per pupil funding, but we know that there are inequities throughout our state. There are inequities within my own community that I see. Those inequities are going to become more pronounced the longer that Donald Trump continues his war on public education. Donald Trump's war on public education is one that I believe will include a shutdown of Head Start eventually. The impact that will have on our state childcare programs, our state preschool programs, is something that cannot be measured. When I was running state preschool programs, even when we were fully funded, we had a waiting list of upwards of 900 students. So ultimately, what this job needs now more than ever is someone who can fight against Donald Trump the same way I did when I was Speaker of the Assembly the first time. I led 16 lawsuits, multi-state lawsuits, in collaboration with our state Senate against the administration. I'll do it again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Next, we're going to move on to the question segment. We're going to give Jeff a moment to get everybody spotlighted for this segment. You can note that all the questions will be posted in chat. So if for some reason you missed it when it's read out, you can look for it in chat and be reminded of what the question is. Jeff will give me the go-ahead for the question. You do have 90 seconds to respond, and it looks like you all know how to listen to the music and stop talking. You can finish your sentence when the music comes to an end.
We're issuing gold stars for everybody who does well on this. So you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Sorry, give me a moment here.
Okay.
And also the questions are being posted on the YouTube chat as well. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, we are not giving extra time to respond if another candidate mentions you in their answer, but you can take time in your answer to respond back. All right, with that, I think, Jeff, you're ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, Joanna, we'll go to you for the question.
First question. Recent proposals to change California's education governance raise questions about the superintendent's independence from the executive branch. As state superintendent, how would you maintain the independence needed to oversee public education and advocate for students while also working effectively with the governor's office and the legislature to deliver results? And the first person speaking is Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you for that question. Simply put, with the governor's proposal, the superintendent would not have the true individual ability to continue to do this work directly, because that responsibility and authority would be shifted to the governor. So currently the superintendent oversees the the State Board of Education and the State Department of Education. And what this proposal does is removes the superintendent from that leadership entirely. So we will then be relying on our governor to care about education enough to work with our legislators and our local offices of education to make sure that we are protecting our students and providing the supports that they need. Because right now, with the cuts from the federal Department of Education, it is making it increasingly difficult for our local school districts to determine how they will continue to function, support our special needs students, our workforce programs. And it will only, get worse because the superintendent will have less power, less authority in that regard.
All right, next we'll hear from Al Maritsucci.
Thank you. So ever since the founding of the state of California, the founders of California put in the state constitution to have a independently elected statewide education elected official. California voters have had the opportunity to revisit the question of who should be in charge of public education, whether it should be the independently elected state superintendent or whether it should be the governor. And California voters have rejected that 4 times in the history of our state. As state superintendent, I'm going to continue to fight as the independently elected top education official in the state of California, because that is not only what was originally designed to provide the checks and balances with the statewide state superintendent as the independently elected officer. But at the same time, it's going to be critically important for the state superintendent to work with the governor and the legislature on everything from the budget to the laws that are passed that govern our schools. I have that track record as chair of the Assembly Education Committee. I've worked closely with the governor's office and with the legislature to work on everything from the budget to working on laws that we have passed to support and protect our students, and I'll continue to do that as state superintendent.
Thank you. Richard Barrera, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with Nichelle and Al. It's never a good idea to take power away from voters, and especially when we're talking about responsibility for our public schools. So quite frankly, I think this proposal is a big distraction. We've got real issues facing our public schools right now. We've got our immigrant students and families who are afraid of coming to school. We've got our LGBTQ students under attack, and we've got consistent underfunding of our public schools. That's the conversation we should be having, not this kind of insider Sacramento conversation of power grabs and taking away the Department of Education from the elected state superintendent. In fact, what we need is more responsibility for the elected state superintendent to organize the legislature, the governor, the California Department of Education, State Board of Education, but mostly, most importantly, our local school boards who make the big decisions that affect kids the most. So the state superintendent should be helping us come together and set goals, hold ourselves accountable to those goals, and push back against decisions made in Sacramento that, like withholding $5.5 billion, which the governor proposes in this budget, that schools need right now. The state superintendent has to have the voice and the responsibility to stand up for our schools.
Thank you. Next up is Anthony Rendon.
Thank you. I hate the governor's proposal. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it on every level imaginable. I think, and as Richard said, it's never good to take power away from the voters, but it's also never good to concentrate power in any one person's hands. I sat across the desk from Governor Jerry Brown when we were negotiating a budget on 2 different occasions. He tried to put money for his own military charter school in Oakland into the state budget. Both times I had it removed from our side. I didn't agree with Jerry Brown on a lot of education issues. Arnold Schwarzenegger were governor. I wouldn't agree with him on education issues. I'm 57 years old. I've lived half my life under Republican governors, half my life under Democratic governors. I think for the vast, for at least half of my life, I haven't agreed with what governors have thought in terms of what they wanted to do with education in this state. The power of the superintendent of public instruction has been granted by the Constitution and by the voters. It's the most democratic way of administering our educational program. And again, as we've seen in Washington, D.C., as we've seen all over the world right now at this moment, concentrating the hands and the power of the executive branch is never a good thing anywhere.
All right, thank you. Next is Josh Newman.
So let me agree with everybody, but let me just point out that there's, as I think Richard pointed out, this is a constitutional feature that dates all the way back to the state's founding. But it's a weird one, right? Because on the one hand, you have an elected SPI, and the other you have appointed members of the State Board of Education, all of whom are appointed by the governor. And that's actually the reverse of what we see at the local level, right? Where you elect the trustees and the trustees elect the superintendent. So there's always been this tension between the state board and the superintendent. And that tension's been particularly apparent over the last several years. The problem that is arguably in need of addressing is alignment. And so there's at least a theoretical case here that this addresses the alignment problem at the state level. But we have a much broader alignment problem, as my colleagues have pointed out, with 977 districts, 58 counties. And to Richard's point, we have to figure out how the State Department of Education is a better partner and a more proactive resource, more collaborative resource for all of those districts. This is not the solution. Even if it produces better accountability, better alignment, it will not give us better accountability, will not give us better creativity, will not give us better impacts over time. And so what we really need is what we have is a superintendent who will be the voice and the energy within the legislative realm to force these conversations, and then across the state to make sure that we're working well to serve every California district and every student.
All right, thank you. We'll be moving on to our next question now. This will be in the chat and on the YouTube stream. Public education and inclusive curriculum are increasingly under attack. How would you use the state superintendent's office to defend public education, uphold truth and inclusion in our classrooms, support the students, and build trust with families and communities? We'll first hear from Al Maristucci. Sorry.
That's fine. Just call me out. Thank you. I have been fighting the Trump administration as chair of the Assembly Education Committee, as a state lawmaker. As I said earlier, last year I was proud to get my Assembly Bill 49, the California Safe Haven Schools Act, signed into law to support and defend all of our immigrant students by keeping ICE out of our California schools. We know that kids can't learn if they're afraid of either getting deported themselves or having their family members impacted by these horrendous ICE raids that we've been seeing across the country. And so that is one effort that I've been proud to work with Shirla and other immigrant rights advocates to fight for our immigrant students, to support and protect them. But beyond that, we know that the Trump administration has been attacking, our LGBTQ plus students. And, a couple of years ago, I was proud to work with Equality California to get the California Freedom to Read Act signed into law to make sure that our kids have access to books written by and reflecting the life experiences of diverse, lived experiences, including the LGBTQ plus, our communities of color. We need to make sure that our kids have access to safe, inclusive, and supportive environments.
All right, thank you. Next is Richard Barrera.
Yeah, so I think we just heard the Attorney General say that, we've sued the Trump administration 57 times. I'm proud of our Superintendent Tony Thurmond, who's been a part of all of those lawsuits that are related to public education. I mean, what we've seen from the Trump administration is a barrage of weekly or daily threats that come to us at CDE and then come to us in our local school districts saying, unless you turn your back on immigrant students, on LGBTQ students, unless you accept our ideology of bullying and discrimination, we're going to pull your federal funding. And we have to consistently fight back against that. By the way, it's illegal every time he does that. Just because the Trump administration asserts something as the law is not the law. So it's important for us at CDE to continue to provide guidance to our local districts about what is California law and how all of our students need to be supported and protected. And quite frankly, this is a political issue. So when we have local school boards in some areas in this state that are MAGA controlled, we as Democrats need to get ourselves organized in coalition with our educators and defeat those school boards and take those back to protect our children as educators.
All right, thank you. Anthony Rendon, next.
Thank you. I think there's two different tracks here. I think the first track is earlier we talked about the governor's proposal to sort of streamline things and take power away from the superintendent of public instruction. This proposal would reduce the superintendent of public instruction's overall staff to 11. If you look at Secretary of State Shirley Weber, for example, she has 45 attorneys on her staff alone, fighting every day to make sure that the Voting Rights Act, for example, remains intact. In order to make sure that the superintendent of public instruction can effectively fight legal battles, bureaucratic battles against the Trump administration, we need to make sure that that office and the power of that office is maintained, if not expanded. So that's the first thing. The second thing, Richard brings up a really good point that I think as Democrats, we've sort of fallen asleep on. The vast majority of decisions that impact folks on a daily basis happen at the local government level. People understand whether or not their kids are learning in schools. People understand whether or not their kids have access to textbooks or not. People understand whether or not the water they drink is clean. As Democrats, we have done an incredible job of controlling every statewide elected office, of controlling supermajorities in both legislative houses, but we have failed when it comes to local offices. And you see that again, in our school boards, in the decisions the school boards make, and we need to do a better job there. Thank you.
All right. And next is Josh Newman.
Thanks. And so let me build on Anthony's answer. So, first of all, kudos to the AG for being so aggressive and so effective in pushing back on the Trump administration. But to Anthony's point, so, one of the great shames of the last several years is how school boards have become ground zero for the culture wars. And all these poor people who thought, hey, I want to go improve my local school district, have to sit in places like Chino Valley Unified and face the barrage of all of the MAGA efforts that are funded, by this dark money kind of seeking its lowest level. And so I had the kind of interesting experience. I had a bunch of students that I spoke to a bunch of student leaders about a year ago. And during the Q&A, one of them asked me, said, hey, how do we get the adults to behave better in school board meetings? And part of the answer is what we model and the policies that we not only embrace, but defend at the level of Sacramento, and then make sure that those values are actually passed down and supported and defended at the local district level. I'm especially proud of some of the work that I've done. I did a bill, SB 760, 2 years ago that, as I mentioned earlier, creates a mandate in California schools for a gender-neutral bathroom in every single school. No kid should have to worry in using the restroom about being unintentionally outed, bullied just because of their gender expression. And we need to make sure that those are our values and we support those values up and down the state. And every one of us here, I think, agrees with that.
All right. The gold star. Michelle Henderson, you're next. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Well, we know that public education is under attack, and it's primarily being attacked by this current federal administration because it involves the cuts are directed to cultural identity, sexual identity, gender identity, all of the isms that we all say that we fight against. The superintendent is the top educator in the state. And these attacks are on the poor, they're on people of color, they're on women, they're on LGBT identifying students. And the idea is the way that we build trust and to make sure that we uphold what we say are our ideals is to ensure that our funding is aligned with what we say our priorities are. You know, as superintendent, I will fight with the governor and the AG to make sure that we continue to ensure the rights and the civil liberties of our students and our classroom staff. Inclusive curriculum is culturally relevant, socially relevant, and it's representative of our communities. And so we have teachers that are able to teach this curriculum. We bring families in, and we make sure that we are identifying with the people that need it most and ensure this level of trust and accountability with those people through the way that we teach.
Thank you. Next question. California has made historic equity investments in public education, yet gaps in achievement and opportunity remain. As state superintendent, what are the top 2 actions you would take to ensure these investments produce measurable results for low-income students, students of color, English learners, and students with disabilities? We'll hear first from Richard Barrera.
Thank you, Joanna. So when I was elected to the school board in 2008, I think San Diego Unified was not unique in that a student would get to their senior year in high school, want to apply to the Cal State system or UC, and they were told by their counselor that they didn't have the A to G courses that made them eligible to apply. And in some of our schools, the schools didn't even offer the full complement of A to G classes. One of the first things that we did is we passed a policy A to G for all, which means now every school provides the full complement of A to G classes. And in fact, completing the A to G courses is the graduation requirement in our district. And the result of that work is that we had Black and Latino students when I started on the board, where 25% of a graduating class was actually eligible for UC and CSU. Today, we're up to 70% for Black and Latino students, and we've eliminated what people call the achievement gap, what I think of as the opportunity gap for Black and Latino students. We can make huge gains in equity and outcomes for students if we work with local school boards to help them understand what's possible when we set the highest standards and then support our students to achieve those standards.
All right, next we'll hear from Anthony Rendon.
Sure, thank you. I think the first thing we need to do is definitely shed light on those districts that are not achieving what we need to have achieved for our kids, and we also need to make sure that in certain districts, where I live, Long Beach Unified School District, for example, there are certain parts of the community where kids are getting good education, certain parts of the same district where kids are not. We at the state level have taken multiple municipalities to court for not meeting our housing goals. We need to make sure that we're equally tough with schools and school districts that aren't meeting their standards and their goals. I think that's incredibly important. The other thing I think we need to do is, and we've talked about this before, is making sure that we have equitable funding systems. I was proud that I was there when we implemented our local control funding formula. We need to look at how we reimburse schools and make sure that they're done so in a way that makes sure that the school districts that have the greatest need are receiving the greatest amount of funds. One of the ways we do that is to make sure that Prop 98 is maintained. I don't believe in this current budget that it's being fairly treated, and we need to make sure that it is in the future and moving forward.
All right, next we'll hear from Josh Newman, also Gold Star, Anthony.
10 seconds. 10 seconds for the future. So I agree with my colleagues, but let me come back to something we talked about earlier and the necessity to revitalize and refocus the California Department of Education, which over the last several years has been a compliance-based organization, but as I mentioned, too passive, often too adversarial. And that organization, 1,100 employees, there's certainly enough people there for them to be better partners, more collaborative, and more proactive out in communities to find out exactly where the resources are needed to address the kinds of disparities that we're seeing from district to district. To Anthony's point, we should be proud of the LCFF, the Local Control Funding Formula, but that was passed in 2012, implemented in 2013. That needs to be continually updated, and so that resources flow to the places that need them, that will benefit the most. And within that, we have to really be, I think, mindful of what works, what doesn't. I'm actually pleased to see two things in that direction. One is, the embrace of the science of learning. I think that'll make a big difference. And then kind of in another sphere, the turn toward cell phone free schools and making sure that young people are actually focused, present, and thoroughly engaged in learning. And then I think we also have to talk seriously about funding. I think somebody mentioned it in moving away from the average daily attendance formula to enrollment-based funding to make sure that every school has the resources that it needs. And if chronic absenteeism is the problem, ADA is not the answer. We need to figure out how to get those students back into school.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you for that question. We are experiencing severe cuts to education from the Federal Department of Education. And so, taking power away from the superintendent is the equivalent of throwing our baby out with its dirty bathwater. There's been mentioned the need to revamp the Department of Education. That is very true, but that does not happen with taking power away from the superintendent. It does not happen just through legislation. The superintendent is not a legislator. The superintendent is a policy influencer. The superintendent is an overseer. And so the idea around, two of the things that I would take action on is to address the way that we test our students, which is part and parcel to the reason that we have such a huge achievement gap in terms of numbers, and to stop the system of social promotion that we have in our state. We allow our students TK through 5 to matriculate from grade to grade, not demonstrating any level of mastery on our Common Core or state standards. What is the purpose of assessment if it isn't to collect data that we utilize to support student outcomes? And with the system of social promotion, we are clearly not doing that. So those are two of the things that I would do as superintendent right off the bat, because those are in the direct purview of the superintendent. Thank you.
We'll go on to the next question, which
Oh,
is,
actually, I didn't get a chance to answer
Sorry.
the question.
was
Sorry,
waiting for Rocky
Almer
to
Suchi
chime
is
in there.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, thank you. Yes, I agree with a lot of the proposals that my fellow candidates have offered, but I would focus on two proven approaches. One is focusing on early childhood education. I represent both low-income communities as well as middle-class suburban communities, and the biggest difference that I see is the amount of money and energy that the middle-class communities put into early childhood education. Quality preschool programs. We need to make sure that we not only, I'm proud that I've been championing the transitional kindergarten program to make sure that every 4-year-old has access to quality early childhood education. But we need to continue to build on those efforts. Second, the governor just called out some of the districts that have been outperforming the state in terms of closing the opportunity and achievement gaps. And two in particular he highlighted. One is Compton Unified, the other is LA Unified. And they both talk about, I've met with both of their superintendents. They both talk about how they have had targeted interventions with additional resources for things like tutoring, literacy coaches, promoting best practices like what was mentioned earlier, the science of reading. I'm proud that I was a joint author of the bill to promote the science of reading, AB 1454, and I got to continue to promote those best practices.
Thank you. This will be the last question. California's educator workforce is under strain from burnout, staffing shortages, and cost of living pressures. How would you improve recruitment and retention, especially in high-need communities, while supporting educators, respecting collective bargaining, and respecting local control? We'll first hear from Anthony Rendon.
Thank you. I think the first thing we need to do is we start to look at the data on what most Californians spend on their housing bills, whether it's rent or mortgage on a monthly basis. We know it's way too high. We need to add about 1.3 housing units. We need to bring 1.3 million housing units online in the next 20 years just to bring housing costs down to where we want them to be. The best way to make sure that we make teaching more attractive is to specifically address that issue. We can address that issue through an active workforce housing policy. We've implemented active workforce housing policies in other realms in this state, and we've seen it incredibly effective in other countries. And I think we need to learn from those places. Other thing we need to do, obviously, is to make sure that Prop 98 and funding is maintained. The kids in my children's school district are facing about a potential 12% pay cut. And a job where we know they already spend their own money on supplies. We know they work excessive hours. We need to make sure our teachers are paid what they deserve and that the class sizes stay the same. The only way to do that is to maintain Prop 98, to look at our reimbursement policies, and to make sure that education is fully funded by defending the Federal Department of Education. Thanks.
Great. Next, we'll hear from Josh Newman.
Thanks. So when I was chair of Senate Education, I actually held a hearing in 2023 on the state of California's educator workforce, and the feedback we got from educators across the state was actually really discouraging. We are losing teachers on the back end. We're having trouble recruiting teachers on the front end. Teachers in the profession, in addition to pay, as Anthony mentioned, really concerned about affordability. It is so hard to make things work as a teacher, especially if you want to live near the community in which you're teaching. And another issue was frankly just, the respect and safety that they felt that was no longer present in the classroom. On the recruiting side, we're doing actually a really subpar job in recruiting new teachers. And so that is really concerning. And among the concerns are that the teacher educator workforce has to look like the students that they are teaching, and we're not doing enough to recruit teachers of color and male teachers. And part of that is because we have made it really hard in California to become a teacher. A bunch of onerous requirements like the teacher performance assessment, which I tried to have amended while I was in the Senate, but also, making it from the beginning to the end. We need to give teachers the opportunity to earn while they learn, stipends, and fast track them to the credentials that they need to be effective educators. And if we could do that, if we can elevate teaching, both by way of pay, respect, and other benefits, we will do a real service to California students.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Michelle Henderson.
Thank you. The way that we address burnout, staff shortages, all of this is simply respecting our teachers, making sure, working with our collective bargaining groups to make sure that our teachers are earning a thriving wage. Most of our classroom teachers and our classified staff are literally one emergency away from financial ruin. Many of them have to struggle every month between how they pay their rent and buying food for their kids, while they are building every other profession across the country. We do this, we restore respect for our teachers and our classified staff by lowering class size. Students can't learn in overcrowded classrooms, and teachers can't teach in overcrowded classrooms. Any classroom, TK through 12, with more than 25 students, in my view, having been in the classroom, working in classrooms now, supporting new and pre-service teachers, is overcrowded. We need to hire more social workers, classroom aides, full-time nurses, psychologists to provide supports for our students in and outside of the classroom. We talk about supporting students' mental health, but we don't provide the services. We as Californians, we boast being the fourth largest economy, but we don't put that effort into how we educate our students, put our funding where our talk is.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Al Maritsucci.
Thank you. You know, I've been working for years with our teachers as well as our classified school employees to address, you know, what some of my colleagues have mentioned, this fundamental challenge that our teachers and our classified school employees can't afford to live in the communities that they teach in, that they work in. And so that's why I've introduced legislation like the Fair Pay for Educators Act, working with our teachers and our classified employees to not only pay our teachers more, but to fully fund our schools so that we can not only give the funding to our local school districts to be able to pay our educators more, but also to do the things that have been mentioned, like reducing class sizes, getting more support for our special education teachers. They're dealing with such large caseloads that they're one of the biggest candidates for burnout. We need to get more instructional assistants, more paraeducators in the classroom to support these teachers. And last but not least, as been mentioned, we need to take advantage of our school districts having surplus land to build affordable education workforce housing. I have introduced legislation to promote that statewide, and I will continue to do that to support our teachers and classified employees.
All right, and now from Richard Barrera.
Thank you. So I'm proud to be endorsed by the 300,000+ educators that make up the California Teachers Association. And that's based on a track record of 18 years of investing in and supporting our classroom educators. As Al mentioned, and I really appreciate the legislation that he's put forward around educator workforce housing. So there was a study by Berkeley and UCLA a few years ago which shows that school districts collectively across California own enough land to actually develop 2 to 3 million units of affordable housing. And we have taken the most aggressive approach to that in San Diego Unified of any school district in the state. We've embarked on a program to provide affordable housing where nobody, whether it's our classified employees or our teachers, pays more than 30% of their income in rent to 20% of our employees. We can do that across the state. And we're about to see San Francisco teachers go out on strike on Monday. We saw Richmond. We're going to see Los Angeles. We're going to see others. A lot of that is because the state provides guidance to school boards that's basically you've got to not spend the money you actually get on your educators. You got to build up reserves. You've got to outsource contracts. We've done the opposite of that in San Diego Unified, and I can help local school board members understand how to actually use their money to invest in their educators.
Great. Thank you all. We are now going to go to the closing statements. These will be 2 minutes each, and we will start with Nichelle Henderson.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to address questions and concerns presented. I am running to be the state superintendent of public instruction because I see every day the challenges that teachers face. I've been out of the classroom for 15 years, and for 13 of those years, I have worked with new and pre-service teachers working towards their multiple subjects teaching credentials. I am the only candidate in this race that has a clear multiple subjects teaching credential to teach in a TK through 12 classroom today. I've been doing this work for over a decade. I see the challenges. I see the disconnect between legislation and implementation on the ground. I believe very strongly in the power of education. A community college degree changed the trajectory of my family's life when my dad attended and graduated from LA Trade Tech College in LA. And also when my just working as a trustee on the LA Community College Board, seeing how effective our workforce training programs are for our students, having clear pathways between high school and workforce. Not every student is going to go to college right out of high school by a lack of desire or ability in terms of financial ability. We've got to make sure that, the superintendent sits on the UC Board of Regents and the Cal State Board of Trustees. We've got to lower tuition for our college students to make their opportunities more accessible, but we also need to make sure that we work with our local labor unions and business to create job opportunities for young people and training opportunities when they're in high school. That is the only valid way to continue to build our economy and really show that we are supporting our future. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Al Suchi.
Thank you again, Democrats, for sharing your time. I am running to be your next state superintendent. I'm asking you to judge all the candidates on their track record. I'm proud of my track record as a classroom educator, as a former local school board president, and now as chair of the Assembly Education Committee. I have that track record of fighting and delivering for public education for decades. I have been fighting to fully fund our schools, pay our teachers more, keep ICE out of our schools, crack down on charter school fraud and corruption, and to fight book banning. I mean, those are just some of the many things that I've been working on, and because I've been leading the fight in the trenches to fight for public education and for our most vulnerable students, that's why I am endorsed by the California Federation of Teachers and the California School Employees Association. I'm also proud to have a 100% voting record with Planned Parenthood, Equality California, and many other progressive organizations. I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move to Richard Barrera.
No, thank you for this opportunity today. So I have the honor to represent the part of the city of San Diego that is made up of immigrant families, working families, first-generation families who are working 2 or 3 jobs at once so that their kids can have a brighter future. And I understand that story because that's my family's story. I'm a first-generation Californian. My dad came here from Colombia. My mom's parents came from Europe through Ellis Island. The public education system has meant everything for our family in terms of creating an opportunity for us to, no matter the circumstances that we were in when we started school, to actually become contributors. But the reality is that we are about to be in our 50th year since the passage of Prop 13. And that has imposed a framework of austerity on our public schools that is not consistent with the values of us as Californians. Our students don't have what they need. Our educators don't have what they need. Our families don't have what they need in the 4th wealthiest economy in the world. And in a state where I believe Californians actually believe in public education and will support it. What we have to do is we need to get organized. We need to organize at the local level with our school boards. We need to organize to be a powerful advocacy coalition when the legislature and governor start making decisions that affect our schools. We need to organize across the state to pursue revenue measures that can reverse the negative effects of Prop 13. It is about building power. That is the work I have always done as a community organizer, as a labor organizer. That is the work that has produced the results that we've seen in San Diego Unified. I want to work with all of you to build our power collectively to make our public schools the best in the world again.
All right, thank you. We'll next hear from Anthony Rendon.
Cool. Thank you very much. I think there's a lot of folks on this call, a lot of candidates who share the same values. I think what separates me from others is the fact that I sat across the desk from two pro tems and negotiated 7 budgets, sat across the desk from 2 governors, negotiated 7 budgets. I was at the table for every important deal that was passed over the course of between 2016 and 2023. That being said, served with Al Marisucci, served with Josh Newman, good friends, great colleagues, become friends with Richard and Nichelle during this process. 48 hours ago, I was down the street at the CIF headquarters, where our other opponent, who's not on this call, Sonia Shaw, was protesting against the inclusion of trans athletes in high school sports. I hope to earn the endorsement of the California Democratic Party. I hope to earn the endorsement of everyone on this call. I hope to win an advance in June. If I don't, I'm fully dedicated to making sure that one of the other fine folks on this call is our next superintendent of public instruction. The challenges to public education right now coming from the federal government are profound. They are existential. We don't need that in our own backyard. I hope to earn your endorsement, hope to earn your support. If I don't, I'm going to support and endorse whichever other Democrat comes out of this race. And I hope you all join me in doing so as well.
All right, thank you. We'll next hear from Josh Newman.
I feel like Anthony should have been the closer on that one, but well done. So thank you again, both for convening today's forum, but also for all the work that everybody here has done on behalf of Democrats and democratic values. So public education, as I think we all agree, is a public good, a precious resource. And it's important to remember, it's been the most powerful engine of opportunity and advancement in American life. And as I said earlier, it's really important, whether to elevate this concept, whether people have kids in school or not. Public education is so important. Every California has a stake in the quality of public education. The quality of public education in California will determine, whether our globally leading economy will have the workers that it needs for the future. It will determine whether or not we actually finally address the crisis in affordability and income inequality in California. And equally important, I think, a subtext of all of this is about the preservation of democracy and the improvement of civic education and civic engagement. And so the next SSPI has a really important role, I think, as all my colleagues have pointed out, in being an advocate, an agitator, a convener, and a connector in all of these really important questions across this massive, decentralized, very complex educational system in a state of almost 40 million people, 6 million kids in school, 1,000 school districts, 10,000 schools, and nobody other than the SSPI is properly equipped or charged with elevating those conversations. And so thank you again for this conversation. Let me also add that as you talk to gubernatorial candidates, one of the things that has been least explored, I think, in many of the debates that I've seen for gubernatorial candidates is how the next governor thinks about education. That will be the most important partner to the next superintendent of public instruction. I'm very proud to earn broad support from the California Building and Construction Trades to organizations, to federal, state, local, and school board trustees all across the state, hoping for your support as well. But again, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks everybody. Lots of gold stars out there for everybody on timing. Thank you. I'm going to go off script and take a point of personal privilege. I enrolled my son in Oakland USD for transitional kindergarten this week. There was tons of interest. So I'll just put that out there, that more money for that. There's a lot of parents that really, really want this to work, and there's just not enough spots anywhere. So yeah, I'm going to use that, and I'll pass it back over to my team.
Okay, thank you all. Next, I see that all of our candidates are now here, so we will be moving forward to Lieutenant Governor. Since they joined us late, I will mention a couple of the things. You will hear music go off when you'll see a timer on the top right of your screen. You'll hear music go off when your time is over. We'll let you finish your sentence, but then we will mute you. We are trying very much to stay on schedule today. When we get to the question section, the questions will, as well as being read, will be posted in chat if you have to refer back to them. So with that, we will start.
Hold on. Before we get to that, I just want to note for those of us in the room, the Zoom room, and for those of you on the stream, Pat just mentioned that music will go off at the end of the timer. However, the people on the stream will not hear that music. Just so you know.
Yeah. So it'll look like all of our candidates are absolutely perfect and keeping time exactly the way they should. So we all have internal time clocks. We'll start with the opening statements, and we will go first to Fiona Ma.
Good morning, delegates, and thank you for showing up for our party and for California. I'm Fiona Ma, and I'm honored to serve as California's state treasurer. I'm running for lieutenant governor because experience matters, especially in a moment like this. Right now, California is facing a federal administration that is actively threatening our values, our funding, and our communities. We don't have the luxury of on-the-job training. We need leaders who already know how to protect the state financially, politically, and morally. As state treasurer, I serve as California's banker. Under my stewardship, California has grown from the 7th largest economy in the world to the 4th largest, and we have maintained one of the highest credit rating histories in our history. That's not abstract. That means billions of more dollars to invest in affordable housing, climate resilience, education, healthcare, and to backfill federal cuts when Trump tries to punish us. I've helped finance thousands of affordable housing units. I've expanded college savings programs like CalKids so more families, especially first-generation students, can build a future. I issue green bonds to move billions into clean energy and climate-safe infrastructure. And I sponsored legislation to support working people, including unemployment benefits for striking workers. I started as a grassroots organizer. I've been a delegate since I was a young Democrat. I've grown up in this Democratic Party side by side with many of you. This race isn't about titles, it's about readiness and values. I am proud to be the only candidate in this race not taking money from oil and gas companies, charter schools, tobacco, or Walmart, because it's critical that we choose leaders who share our democratic values, know how state and local government works, how to fight back when California is under attack, and can deliver results on day one. I'm asking for your support, not just because I've made history, but because I've used my offices to protect California. Thank you, and I look forward to earning your vote at the convention.
Thanks. And we're not using titles. We decided to do that across the board. So feel free to share them if you'd like. And also gold stars to anybody who meets the time limits. Next, we'll hear from Michael Tubbs.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Tubbs. I'm the former mayor of the city of Stockton, and I'm running to be your lieutenant governor. Now, I'm running to be your lieutenant governor because A, the status quo isn't working, and B, I'm the only one in this race that was an executive during Trump's first term. As mayor of Stockton, I was elected the same day Donald Trump was elected. So when we talk about fighting Donald Trump, that's not theoretical for me. I did it. I fought Donald Trump and delivered for the people of Stockton. We went from bankruptcy to the second most fiscally healthy city in the state. We had record low unemployment. We did the first guaranteed income program in this country's history. And we did that with a council that was 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And I submit to you today, you guys, that yes, Donald Trump is a threat and we have to fight the Trump administration. I've done that. But also, even if Kamala Harris was elected, California would still have issues. The fact is we may be the 4th largest economy in the world, but who feels that? The 4th largest economy for who? Surely not the workers of SEIU California, which is why they've endorsed me. Surely not the members of the Working Families Party, which is why they endorsed me. Surely not the young people in this state who can't afford housing. The fact that California is tied with Louisiana for the highest poverty rate in this country. The fact that 1/3 of all homeless people sleep in California every single night suggests to me that yes, we have to fight Donald Trump, but yes, we also have to fight for a California where we all belong. And that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor. I'm running because the status quo has never worked for me. I'm running because unless we get in the way, unless we make big trouble, unless we fight and push forward, we will continue to be a state that talks a good game, but does not deliver for working people. And that's my pledge to you all as delegates, to be a lieutenant governor who fights for a California who's affordable, to be a lieutenant governor that doesn't just talk about California values, but delivers on them. And my record as mayor and as a council member shows that I could get things done even in very difficult times, even in a bankrupt city, even with Trump as president.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Josh Friday.
Good morning, Democrats. My name is Josh Friday, and I'm a Navy veteran, which makes me the only candidate for lieutenant governor who's actually served as a lieutenant. And I'm running because we need change, and it's time for a new generation to lead our party. I'm a former mayor, and I currently serve in the governor's cabinet as California's chief service officer, where we have built the largest public service organization in the country, bigger than the Peace Corps, and California should be damn proud about that. I'm the dad of 3 kids in California public schools. My wife, Molly, has the hardest and most important job there is. She's a public school teacher, which makes it extra meaningful to me that I'm the only candidate in this race endorsed by both the California Teachers Association and the California Federation of Teachers. And as a JAG officer in the Navy, I stood up for human rights at Guantanamo Bay when our country abandoned the rule of law. I put on the uniform to defend our families and our freedoms, not to attack them, not to hide behind masks, not to terrorize our communities, and never to abuse power. So take it from me. If ICE operated this way in the military, they would all be court-martialed. And as lieutenant governor, I will lead California's fight against Donald Trump's unlawful and, from this veteran's perspective, appalling use of the military, the National Guard, and his own private ICE army. As a member of the Coastal Commission and State Lands Commission, I will stop Trump and his oil buddies from drilling off our coast because we will never go back. And on the UC, CSU, and community college boards, I will fight to make college more affordable, to build real pathways for everyone, and to tackle our housing crisis that is crushing working families by unlocking underutilized campus land to build 1 million homes for students, faculty, workers, and the surrounding community. Because opportunity should never depend on your zip code or your parents' bank account. And that is very personal to me. California is being tested in serious ways, and you know this. It's a moment that demands a new generation of Democratic leadership. And you all are playing your part. It's why you're here, and we are better for it. And you deserve tough leaders to stand with you, leaders with the strength to protect our people, to defend our values, to get things done, and to never, ever back down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to give Jeff a moment as he gets all. Boy, that was quick, Jeff. Gets everybody up on Spotlight. We'll remind you that as we go into the question section, the questions will be read and they will also be posted in the chat. You will not have a chance to extra time to respond if another candidate mentions you, but you certainly can take time in your answer to respond. So we will begin with the questions. You have 90 seconds to respond. And we will go to Joanna with the first question.
Great. First question. At a time when democratic norms are under pressure nationally, California must lead by example. How do you see the lieutenant governor's role in defending democratic institutions such as fair elections, independent governance boards, and ethical leadership? And where would you draw the line between political advocacy and institutional stewardship? And the first person to answer a question is Michael Tubbs.
Thank you for this question. As you all know, the lieutenant governor is the second highest elected official in the biggest state in the union. And with that comes a responsibility to lead and model the values that make Californians great. I particularly am excited about using this role to make sure we're speaking truth to power and making it very clear that we won't compromise on values. We won't compromise on human rights. We won't throw trans kids under the bus. We won't throw immigrants under the bus. We won't throw poor people under the bus. And we also won't renege on our democratic norms and values. But then number two, and even more importantly, I think part of the question is that, again, California has to deliver. I think people up and down the state, from my hometown in Stockton to Coachella to Bakersfield, even here where I live now in LA, people are tired of talk. They're tired of hearing about democratic norms and want to see what does that mean for affordability? What does that mean for their ability to afford childcare? What does that mean for their ability to afford food? What does that mean for their ability to afford housing? So the next lieutenant governor, yes, has to stand up for these institutions that matter, these institutions that make our state and nation great. But the next lieutenant governor also has to push for these institutions to do more to deliver for people. So people know when we talk about democracy, we're not just talking about the important right to vote. We're talking about the right to eat, the right to shelter, and the right to live with dignity. And again, that takes work, words, and action. And my record as mayor, as a council member, it illustrates how I'm really prepared to do that on day one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Josh Friday.
Thank you very much. Listen, this question, I think, highlights the stakes that are at play in this election, where we have an administration that is literally attacking our Constitution and our communities every single day. And we are grappling with multiple crises. We're grappling with a political crisis. We're grappling with a climate crisis that's driving a wildfire and insurance and affordability crisis. We're grappling with a crisis where people no longer believe what my parents believe, which is that even though they didn't have college degrees and even though they often struggled to make ends meet, they believe that they could send their kid to great California public schools, which is what I got to do from kindergarten all the way through the UC system, and that you'd be able to have a better life. People don't believe that anymore, which is why I think we are in this critical moment where we need leaders who can both fight like hell to protect our institutions, to protect our values, who have a track record of doing it, of standing up and speaking out, of being courageous, and who can deliver for people in a meaningful way, which is what I've done my entire career at every level, at the international level, national, state, and local level. But I think the spirit of the question, I just want to highlight one thing, and this is why I have been so outspoken about what this administration is doing with our military, deploying it on our domestic soil, because I think they are marching right towards our elections. And I said that when I was the only state official that had a chance to go down and visit with the troops when they federalized the National Guard in LA, 4,000 of our troops. What I said was, if they can do this here, they can do this anywhere. And they're going to try, and we need to stop them.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll hear from Fiona Ma.
Thank you. So political advocacy, institutional stewardship. That's what I've been doing for the past 20 years, starting on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, 2002 to 2006, where we were facing the dot-com crisis and we had to push to keep our neighborhood firehouses open, for example, and keep funding going for public transportation because so many people depended on it. Then in the state assembly, 2006 to 2012, we faced the Great Recession. And we had to make sure under Prop 98 that it was fully funded so our schools and our teachers would get paid, as well as keeping our adult day healthcare centers open so our seniors would have a place to go. And now as state treasurer, I am your primary banker. I fund and finance 15 different boards and commissions, from affordable housing to others. And I have been protecting Planned Parenthood from closing, giving out 17 distressed hospital loans in rural and community hospitals, protecting and funding victims of wildfires, and even making sure that transgender care at our children's hospitals continue. Affordable housing, I've overseen the affordable housing tax credit and bonds, and I've had to balance the interests of nonprofits versus for-profits, geographic distribution, as well as housing for seniors, people with disability, working families, and veterans. So I've got a track record of good protecting our institutional and stewardship.
Thank you. Next question. California's climate goals require both urgency and fairness. What role should the lieutenant governor play in ensuring that climate and land use decisions create good union jobs and protect frontline communities? And where do you believe Democrats must be especially disciplined in balancing speed with equity? And the first person to answer is Josh Friday.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And this should be front and center of what Democrats are talking about. And climate work has defined my career. When I came home from the Navy, I built and ran Next Gen Climate. that was founded by Tom Steyer. We led the effort to fight the Keystone Pipeline. We led the effort to accelerate clean energy, and led the effort on the transition. And that was at a time when Democrats weren't even good on climate. And we had to push, and we have to continue to push now. And so the lieutenant governor plays such a critical role. It's a huge part of why I'm continuing to, or why I want to run for this office, because lieutenant governor sits on the boards of the Ocean Protection Council, the Coastal Commission, and the State Lands Commission. So it's a really important role to make sure that we continue California's leadership on climate, but that we also are able to fight and protect of what we know is coming. Look at what this guy did in Venezuela for oil, and then they talked about Greenland. We know that they're coming for our coasts, and we have to be ready and able to stand up and fight. And the State Lands Commission plays a huge role in protecting our coasts and making sure that we're fighting. And then in terms of equity, it's why I created the Climate Corps, the first Climate Corps in the country, which is now a model for 12 other states, was the model for the American Climate Corps that now doesn't exist because of Trump. But it was to empower and pay and support people in their communities and our frontline communities to be able to take action, to be able to organize around taking climate action. And it's why I want to scale these programs so that we continue to empower young people across the state of California to be involved in their communities, to get hired in their communities, and to protect our communities.
Next, Fiona Ma.
So I always believe that we need to put people before profits, especially in government. And when workers are happy, companies make money, people pay taxes, and California is better for it. We need to make sure we have a just transition to renewable energy, but we cannot leave working families, communities, and unions behind as we are making this transition. At the State Treasurer's Office, I have 2 boards and commissions that funds and finances clean, green energy projects, from solar, geothermal, biogas, garbage and recycling, energy, efficient storage, as well as others. I also issue bonds twice a year. We have not missed a bond sale in my 7 years as state treasurer. They're highly competitive. We get good rates, and these infrastructure projects fund good quality union jobs. I also sit on CalPERS and CalSTRS, where I am fighting for divestment from fossil fuels, co-author of SB 252, Lena Gonzalez's bill, and making sure that we maintain our values of diversity, equity, inclusion, as well as ESG, environment, social, and governance, because those are our principles, and that's what makes California the 4th largest economy in the world.
All right, now Michael Tubbs.
Yeah, we absolutely have to treat the climate crisis like it is a crisis. And California has been a great leader, not in this nation, but in this world on that front. The lieutenant governor, I think the role is to leverage the UC, CSU, and community college boards and ensuring that those institutions are making progress towards those climate goals and identifying bottlenecks and identifying sort of where we are so we're able to report back to the public on the progress we're making. Number 2, on the State Lands Commission, I think the next lieutenant governor has to be very clear. No more offshore drilling permits. When they expire, they expire. They're not being renewed, and keeping the ball rolling on that front, while also being ready to protect our coastlands and our other lands from the Trump administration and their overreach. And lastly, as a mayor in the Central Valley, I understood the need to balance sort of climate realities with economic realities. And that's why in Stockton, we planted more trees than ever when I was mayor, understanding that not just trees are nice to look at, but they had a demonstrable impact on the asthma rates in Stockton. That's why we worked with our port to move transition from coal, so that we didn't have coal particles causing asthma for young people in the community. That's why we worked with Josh Friday as the first city to pilot Climate Corps in Stockton, to give young people the opportunity to be part of this fight for climate. And lastly, I think as we talk about a just transition, the lieutenant governor has to be the first person that's in Bakersfield, that's in Kern County, that's in the Imperial Valley, and having hard conversations with folks about the need to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, but also hard conversations with folks about the need to make sure that folks who are making 6 figures in refineries are able to find pipelines to jobs that will still allow them to provide for their families.
All right, thank you. Next question. The lieutenant governor sits on boards over the UC and CSU systems. Promises have been made for decades to make college more affordable. What specific policy change would you make to make college more affordable for working class Californians within the next 2 years? We'll first hear from Fiona Ma.
Okay, thank you. So I am the oldest child of immigrant parents. When my parents got married, they started with $3,000 in their pocket. I am a product of public schools. My mother is also a public school, was a public school art teacher. And so affordable, accessible, quality education has always been my priority. Right now, I do work with the UC and the community college systems. The UC and the CSU systems. I've issued over $12 billion in bonds so that they can build more infrastructure, more buildings, and medical centers. I also successfully built the first student housing project at the Santa Rosa Community College site. 362 units and it's proven to be a game changer for that school. And then I'm also a big advocate for more apprenticeship programs like at the American River College, where they are creating real hands-on experience for students so that they have real jobs when they are graduating from school, because too many students are highly dependent on Pell Grants and Cal Grants. And I oversee the Cal Grant program and encouraging more companies and donors to put more money into Cal Grants in case our Pell Grants are threatened. So I have a history of working for public education currently, and I will continue to vote down tuition increases as well as vote down high bonuses and salary increases for their executives.
All right, next we'll hear from Michael Tubbs.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've done it. When I was mayor of Stockton, I raised over $20 million to create the Stockton Scholars Program. So now for the next decade, every single young person who graduates from a public school in Stockton is guaranteed a 2-year, 4-year trade school scholarship. The amount being so that 90% of kids who qualify then get to go to UC, CSU for tuition free. And I will also say to the point of the question, medical centers and infrastructure is not what's driving the cost in our university. It's housing. The fact is that so many of our students in our university system are spending so much money on housing and are living so far from campus. So as Lieutenant Governor, the first thing that I would do is ensure that the UC, CSU community college system are building enough housing, not just 300 units at one campus, but enough units at all the campus. And that would do a long way to help with the affordability crisis. Because if you look at the total cost of education, housing is one of the biggest drivers. Number two, absolutely being very clear about no tuition increase. We are not going to balance this budget on the backs of students. And lastly, I think the lieutenant governor has to be aggressive about looking for revenue sources. It's not pie in the sky. It's not just wishing and asking people to give money. We have to find ways to increase revenue, whether it's Prop 13 reform and taxing commercial properties, whether it's going after corporations who are using government dollars to subsidize their workforce. Wherever there is, the next lieutenant governor has to be aggressive about finding new revenue sources so we're able to make college education affordable in California. And then lastly, I would say this issue in particular is personal to me because I'm the first one in my entire family to go to college. So I wouldn't be running for lieutenant governor, but for access to higher education that allowed me to graduate debt free.
All right, thank you. Next is Josh Friday.
It says I was muted. Are we good? All right, let me just start and share how I think about this, because my father used to take me as a kid. He worked in construction, used to take me on his job sites on summers and on holidays to help him finish the job. And after days of hanging sheetrock and insulation and mixing cement and being so tired I couldn't hold my arms up, he would look at me and he'd say, "Son, I hope this is your motivation to study." And so when he got to see me graduate from UC Berkeley, damn straight, it made me proud to be a Californian. And that's how I think about the power of college and opportunity. And so when I came home from the Navy and I became mayor of my hometown, I created a program where if you graduated from one of our high schools and you got into our local college and you committed to 2 summers of service, we gave you a free ride. We called it a local GI Bill. You serve your community, we help you pay for college. That program is now College Corps. Democrats, we are literally providing debt-free pathways across the state to thousands of young people, including dreamers for the first time because of the program I created. And I'm running for this office to expand that and scale that, to give that opportunity to more people. And not just for those who are going to college, but 4-year colleges, but those who can graduate from high school with credit for prior learning and going into community colleges or trade schools. That's how we create opportunity for everyone. Housing is an issue, which is why I have the plan for 1 million homes on our underutilized public lots on our campuses. But this is how we create opportunity. This is why we are the 4th biggest economy in the world. And that's how I plan to continue to create opportunity for everybody.
Thank you. Next question. With the Lieutenant Governor also sitting on the State Lands Commission, you would have the opportunity to engage in the debate in California over the role of California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and environmental stewardship. As it relates to our state's energy needs, how do you plan to ensure that California protects its natural resources while still being able to keep the lights on and the gas prices down? We'll first hear from Michael Tubbs.
Yeah, much like with anything, CEQA has great uses. It's not entirely a bad law, but we know it's been an impediment to things like development, building, and has been used to drive some costs down. And that's why this past session, I was the expert witness and co-sponsor of Buffy Wick's CEQA reform bill as it relates to infill housing. In terms of, so I'm all in for CEQA reform, particularly in ways that make sense and allows folks to afford to live in California and allows us to meet the needs of our people. In terms of the role of the State Lands Commission, I think as Lieutenant Governor, you have to push the State Lands Commission to open up our land for renewable energy sources, to allow sort of these other uses that are more in line with our climate goals, and that the land's just not sitting there vacant. But then I think you also have to be open to the fact that nothing, particularly in the crisis, particularly given the issues we're facing in the state, nothing is above reproach. Nothing is above an examination. Nothing is above reform. So I will always be in favor of common sense reforms to anything that will make things better in the state. And I've always been on record for the ways in which I think CEQA should be reformed. And I think the point of the question also gets to the fact that the next lieutenant governor has to hold some tension. That yes, there is a climate crisis. That yes, we need to continue to lead there. But yes, we also have an economic crisis that 1 in 3 Californians can afford are $500 away from being evicted, or $500 away from not making ends meet. So as we pursue these climate goals, we have to make sure they're in tandem with an economic agenda that puts cash in people's pockets and allows people to pay for price increases if those happen to happen.
All right, next we'll hear from Josh Friday.
I've dedicated much of my career to tackling climate and to fighting for our environment because I do believe it's a crisis, an existential crisis. And I also believe that we cannot be the party anymore that looks people in the eyes and tells voters and people that this is a crisis and then let it take years to build a clean energy project. We lose trust, we lose credibility, and we can't do that anymore. So I think this is a moment where we have to take things like the State Lands Commission, which is why it's such an important place. And it's important to have climate leaders there and identify really important places and new places where we can build clean energy that makes sense, that aren't going to hurt our endangered species, aren't going to hurt our environment, but that they make sense. And then we be proactive about going and making sure that we are supporting applicants. We're not just letting them apply and go through a very long, tedious process, but we're actually helping them through it. We're actually helping them get the projects done. That's the kind of proactive leadership that we need in this moment. I also think when I think about housing and why we need to build 1 million units on our underutilized public lots or school districts and our campuses, it's because the single biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in our state is people sitting in cars because it's too damn expensive. So they got to live 2 hours away from where they work. So if we can build where people can walk to work, where people can take public transportation, we can actually solve this climate crisis. And it's also why we need to train the next workforce. It's why we have to build out the Climate Corps and the other youth programs that I've created to continue to prepare for this transition in a serious way.
All right, next we'll hear from Fiona Ma.
So I start on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, representing the Sunset District, which includes Ocean Beach. And I was out there cleaning up garbage along the beach, in our waterways with the Surfrider Foundation. I was also there in 2006 when we passed AB 32, our Global Warming Solutions Act, first in the nation, historic. People didn't think we can get it done, and we have reached our goals. We've reached all of our goals since we have passed AB 32. And that makes us first in the country for clean energy, wildfire protection, and climate resilience. Companies, investors, they're all coming to California because of our votes and support of AB 32. In the state assembly, I voted against all offshore oil drilling bills, as well as drilling for natural gas. And then the lieutenant governor needs to use this position to be a bully puppet. For example, I oppose the CPUC's decision to penalize people that put solar on their roofs. by wanting to charge us to help the utility companies. I also oppose vehicle miles traveled for people who owned electric vehicles. We are disincentivizing what we want to incentivize for California. And so we need to continue to protect our lands, protect our coast. And as Lieutenant Governor, I will remain vigilant to these principles.
Thank you. Next question. The Lieutenant Governor also chairs the Commission for Economic Development. At a time when the federal government is cutting funds for small businesses who refuse to provide citizenship papers for the people they serve, what specifically will you do to support small minority and women-owned businesses in order to help them not only survive, but to thrive? And we'll first hear from Josh Friday.
Yeah. Thank you for this question, because this is, I think, cuts to the heart of what kind of party are we? Who do we fight for? Who do we stand for? And it used to, when I was mayor, it used to crush me when I would talk to local business owners and they would say, why is your party trying to crush us? Why is your party trying to make things difficult? Because when we talk about small business owners, we're talking about single moms, people like my mom. We're talking about immigrant families who are just trying to get ahead. And that's who we should be fighting for. So there's a couple things that I've done, and there's a couple things that I want to do. One is I want to make sure, and I'm going to propose and advocate for this, we should be getting rid of the filing fee to be a small business person. It's $800. Why do we have that? It doesn't make any sense. We should be getting rid of that. We should be taking away barriers and sending a message to those who want to start a business in our communities that we're here to fight for you. There's also a reason that I led the effort in California to expand the earned income tax credit to over $1 billion, where I got to work with Michael Tubbs when he was mayor of Stockton, to create and value and to put money back into the pockets of working families. Because that's who we are. That's what this state should be for. So when we think about what are solutions, we need to think about more ways that we can actually put money back into the pockets of our small business owners and send a clear message about who we're fighting for, what we stand for. And I think we've gone overboard. I think honestly, it's a problem that people think that we're not business friendly and we don't want entrepreneurs to succeed. That's a problem because it's small business owners, like I said, like my mom. So I'm going to continue to fight for them. We have work to do as a party, and I'm here to help lead that effort. Thank you.
Thanks. Now, Fiona Ma.
So I started my first job as a CPA for one of the big 8 accounting firms, stayed for 5 years and left because there were no women or people of color, and started my own practice at the age of 28 years old. I became president of the Asian Business Association, where my job was to find more contracting opportunities for women and minority small businesses. When I got elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, I revamped our whole MWBE laws after we lost in federal courts over Prop 209. Then during COVID the federal government gave us $28 billion. I worked very closely with our small business advocate, Tara Lynn Gray, to get the money out. I did 300 webinars, Zoom webinars, targeted to small business owners so that they knew which programs were coming and how to qualify and how to pre-register so that when the money was available, they were ready. I also create resource guides, which I still do to this day, and I update them for all of the small business resources that are out there. And then supporting right now as state treasurer, more funding for our CDFIs, as well as our small business development centers. We are creating more innovative funding, like for our lines of credit for small businesses. We have collateral support programs, loan loss reserves, loan loss guarantees, and we are funding more small businesses than ever. That's why small business owners, as well as ethnic chambers, are supporting me across the state.
All right, lots of gold stars for everybody for timing. So next we'll get to Michael Tubbs.
Yeah, in terms of what specifically would I do to support small minority and women-owned businesses, number one, as a region on the UC-CSU Community College Board, it'd be sitting down with the chancellors to look at our procurement policies and making sure that the billions of dollars that these systems spend are being spent with small businesses that fit that bill. When I was mayor of Stockton, we did that to help sort of local minority women-owned businesses how to get a piece of the pie and let them grow and expand as we were spending money, and that money should be circulating in our community. Number two, I'm already working in coalition with folks who want to see a state bank. A state bank would allow the state of California to give investments and low interest or no interest loans to small businesses and entrepreneurs, et cetera, as they seek to open up businesses and grow. And particularly in this federal climate, it's going to take innovative, creative ideas like that to really invest in our people and ensure that our economy is not just the fourth largest economy for the four richest people in the world, but the fourth largest economy that works for all of us. As was mentioned, I would be supportive of any fee reductions, particularly as it pertains to small business creation and maintenance. I've been talking with Dee Myers at length about this over the past 6 months and figure out sort of what could the Lieutenant Governor do to assist GoBiz and that worthy goal of ensuring that more people in California have access to economic opportunity. And then lastly, many of you probably know me from my work on guaranteed income, first in this country. To actually put it into practice and show by investing in people, you allow people to save, to not be evicted, but you also allow people to create businesses. So as Lieutenant Governor, I will work in coalition with folks to continue to work and figuring out how do we create an income floor for all Californians? How do we create a guaranteed income for Californians to be able to start businesses, to be able to stay in their homes, and to, again, be able to make sure that this economy is an economy that works for the many and not for the few.
And our next question, Joanna, you're on mute.
Sorry, we're moving to our last question. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, so you have 2 minutes to answer this question. Democrats believe good policy is strongest when shaped by the people most effective. How would you use the Lieutenant Governor's office to meaningfully engage labor, local government, tribes, and community-based organizations before decisions are made on state boards? And how would you ensure that that engagement leads to better outcomes, not just better optics? And we will start with Fiona Ma.
Okay, so my first political job was with Senator John Burton as a district field representative for 7.5 years. And for those of you who know John Burton, we needed to answer the phone, we need to be held accountable, we need to be accessible, and we need to deliver. Otherwise, we would see the wrath of Senator Burton. Right now, I chair 17 boards, commissions, and authorities. We have public meetings. All of them, by the way, have public boards, public meetings, public agendas, public minutes, and an opportunity for the public to weigh in. I also made sure post-COVID that there is a Zoom capability so that people don't have to come to Sacramento, but they can actually hear, see, and provide comments for all of us. One of our newest programs, HOPE, is an example of the collaborative spirit that I have been engaging in for the last 20 plus years. HOPE is a new program that is going to be for any child who lost their parent or guardian due to COVID or long-term foster youth in the system for 18 months or more. For the past 1.5 years, we have convened multiple diverse stakeholders to come and tell us what we need to do to solve the foster youth crisis. And in a couple of months, we're going to be rolling out free money, up to $3,000 for child savings accounts for these foster youth so that they can plan for their higher education or apprenticeship program. And I think that is one of my, my keys to success is that I do travel to 58 counties, and I have been for the past 7 years helping people. That's why 500 local elected officials are endorsing me from all over the state because of my spirit of collaboration, my willingness to learn, and to make sure that we are making better decisions for the state of California.
Next, we'll hear from Michael Tubbs.
Yes, well, thank you for this question. About 1.5 years ago, I was in Fresno meeting with the superintendent of the 5th largest school district. And I was shocked to find out that he did not know about either the Childhood Savings Account program or the Hope Account program. And from that work, my organization, In Poverty in California, worked with the Treasurer's Office and others to build community engagement strategies and plans so that when money is rolled out, that folks are able to access it. So I start that to say is that that's at the heart of the work. I think oftentimes in California, we make good policy, but we actually don't follow through. And those who are most benefit from said policy won't hear about it. So I'm so proud to be a member of the board of the HOPE program and have been working with the Treasurer's Office again to make sure that this time this program reaches the people that need to be met. In terms of the question you all ask, I think it starts with hiring, right? You have to hire people on your team who represent and are connected to the communities most impacted. I think that's the first thing. Number two, if you look at the work I did as a council person, my first job, or as mayor, a lot of it was building civic engagement tables, building collaboration, building organizations that are still doing political work, that are still influencing decision making, even though I'm no longer there. And as lieutenant governor, I plan to be in coalition with folks, particularly given the way the office is structured. You really can't do anything alone. So I plan on sitting at the table with nonprofit leaders like PICO or with local community organizers in their communities and helping them advocate and build a California that works for everyone. And again, I think it's easy to talk about it, but there's a clear track record from organizations I've started, like End Poverty in California, to Marriage for Guaranteed Income, to the work I did as 8 years as elected official. It's all been marked by bringing in people who usually aren't at the table, bringing in people who haven't been doing this for 30 years, bringing in people who've been impacted by said problems and giving them the opportunity to co-deliver and co-craft solutions. And I'm excited about continuing that legacy and that work as Lieutenant Governor.
All right, now we'll hear from Josh Friday.
Yeah, when I think about that question, which is the absolute right question to ask, I think of a Navy term, if you'll allow me, which is this is an all hands on deck moment. Our challenges, our crises, our political crisis, our affordability crisis, our climate crisis, driving an insurance crisis, are so big that we can't solve them without bringing people together in new ways. It's why I think that the next lieutenant governor is such an important position. It has so much potential to actually break down the silos that stop us from solving these problems. And let's be honest with ourselves. When it comes to tackling our biggest issues, our housing crisis, our homelessness crisis, climate crisis, people are not talking with each other. They're not. And we have to change that. It's one of the things that I'm so focused on when I talk about housing, building a million units. That's an environmental policy. Because if we can have people live in the communities where they work and they don't have to spend 2 hours a day on the road, that's reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we should be talking about this as an environmental and a housing and affordability policy together. And what I plan to do, and this is how seriously I take this question and this issue of how do we bring people together different? How do we build new coalitions? How do we convene people differently? Is I'm going to, in my first month on the job, host a convening, because we need a Manhattan Project around housing and climate, where we need to bring labor together. We need to bring the private sector together. We need to bring stakeholders together to actually talk and come up with a plan where everyone feels like they were rowing in the right direction. I did this when I was mayor. We held the first North Bay Summit, where we brought labor and business and local leaders and nonprofits together to talk about how to make the North Bay more sustainable. And I'm going to do that as lieutenant governor. We have big issues right now. We haven't even talked about AI, what that is going to mean for our economy. And we have to go to the people who are going to be impacted by it, our teachers, our workers. We need to bring everyone to the table. And that's what I plan to do as lieutenant governor.
Thank you all very much. We are now going to move to closing statements because we are slightly ahead of schedule. We're bumping it up to a 3-minute close for each of you. So stretch, and you can fit in everything you need. And we will start the closing statements, 3 minutes, with Michael Tubbs.
Well, again, thank you all for the work you all are doing in ensuring that California remains a beacon of what democracy is. Again, Michael Tubbs, running for lieutenant governor. And as I said in my opening, running for lieutenant governor because the status quo just isn't working. And that's not to say that everything's broken. That's not to say that nothing has worked. But it is to say that far too many people are being left out, and that the California dream is increasingly becoming a dream of yesterday and not tomorrow. And that's why I'm running. I think this election is about the future. It's about how do we build a California where one job is enough. It's about how do we build a California where you're able to afford to go to higher education. It's about how do you build a California where everyone can afford housing, whether you're a social worker, a teacher, a barista, or a tech entrepreneur. It's about how do we move from just talking about Donald Trump to fighting Donald Trump and also fighting for a California that works for all of us. And again, as I mentioned, this is personal to me. I'm first generation of my family to go to college. first generation of my family to be in politics. My father was still incarcerated. He's been incarcerated for 35 years. My mom was a teenager when she had me. So when we talk about opportunity, when we talk about housing, when we talk about education, when we talk about climate, these aren't just things I studied at Stanford. These are things I've lived. These are things I've experienced. And there's also things I've delivered on. I was elected as mayor the same day Donald Trump was elected. I spent my 4 years as mayor with a council with 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats fighting with Jeff Sessions and ICE. As even back then in 2017, they tried to take money from my police department because we're a sanctuary city. I've been in meetings with my police chief and ICE arguing about how they don't need to have police on their uniform and how and imploring them to stop terrorizing my community. I've been the mayor during COVID and figuring out how do you move from in-person work to remote work? How do you deliver services and food and things and internet to folks so they're able to continue to live and thrive? I was the mayor during the Black Lives Matter protests, having to balance the need for police reform with the need for public safety. And I share all that to say is that this moment is a big moment, but it's not a new moment. The entire time I've led, it's always been in very difficult and turbulent times. When I ran for office in Stockton, we were bankrupt. So learning how to budget in a deficit, learning how to move from bad audits to good audits, and knowing how to move from bankruptcy to surplus is something I've done. And I'm excited about bringing that leadership statewide as the next lieutenant governor. And I'm also excited about the coalition we have. It's going to take a coalition to really govern and move the state forward. So I'm proud to be endorsed by people like SIU California, like the Working Families Party, like Mayor Kevin Bass, like Rep. Robert Garcia, like Rep. Sam Liccardo, like Rep. Latifah Simon, and people up and down the state. And I would love to have your all support because I refuse to believe that California's best years were yesterday. I refuse to believe that affordability can only be a dream. And I know that with leadership and with action, we can make things happen. We can make things better for working people, not just because I want it to be so, but because I've done it before. And I would love your support. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Josh Friday.
Well, thank you all. I'm a lifelong Californian. I'm a lifelong Democrat. And growing up in California, my brother and I once counted, we moved 17 times before we graduated high school. And even back then, it was hard for single parents like mine who had 2 kids to afford a place that they would call home. And fast forward and look at today, for families like mine, it's almost impossible. And I had to work to put myself through college. I was a Pell Grant student, low-income student. I cleaned golf carts at the local golf course. And I'm standing here today. The only reason I'm on this call with you all is because this state and this party invested in me. So when we talk about things like the housing crisis and an affordability crisis and a belief with too many Californians that it's become too hard to get ahead, those aren't buzzwords to me. It's personal. And because it's personal, I think we need to be honest that within our party and with voters who are desperate for change, that we need a new generation of leaders who are going to work with you all to actually create it. And I signed up for the Navy after 9/11 because if you remember, we launched our longest wars in our nation's history and absolutely nothing was asked of us. While leaders in Washington told Americans to go shopping, if you remember that, I chose to serve. And when I saw that our government was abandoning the rule of law in Guantanamo, I chose courage over silence. I spoke up. I testified before the U.S. Senate in uniform to change how the Pentagon treated detainees because abandoning our principles never makes us safer. It only makes us weaker. And standing up for our values, that's what service means to me. Because public service is not about power. It isn't about having a job. It's about who and what you stand up for when it matters the most. And I've worn the uniform of our military. I've sworn an oath to a constitution. I've stood up to my government when it was wrong and when it was tough, and I will always stand up for you in California. I hope at the convention you join us for a little fun. We plan to have ice cream Sundays on Saturday with Josh Friday. Should be very fun. We hope that you will also go to our website, joshfriday.com, for more information. And I'm proud to have and very grateful to have the support of the California teachers. And it's not just the one that I'm married to, but the California Teachers Association, the California Federation of Teachers, and to also have the support of Vote Vets and big city mayors across the state and environmental leaders everywhere and a coalition of Californians who are ready for a new generation of leaders who are unafraid to stand up to fascism and corporate greed. And I'm running for lieutenant governor because I believe that this party and this state is at its best when we fight for people who don't have lobbyists, when we lead on our values, and when we refuse to be intimidated. So if you want tough leadership, real results, and a new generation ready to step up and lead, I would be very honored to have your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll now hear from Fiona Ma.
So I'm Fiona Ma, and I want to leave you with this. I'm the oldest child of immigrant parents, and I am fortunate to have been on the ballot 20 times, and I've never lost. Not because it was easy, but because I know how to build winning coalitions and earn people's trust. I'm proud to be endorsed by 32 unions and counting, including the Teamsters, carpenters, laborers, building trades, NUHW, ILW, teachers, and film and TV workers, because working people know how to deliver. I myself have also been a dues-paying union member since 2007. I've also been endorsed by 75% of the Democratic members of the State Assembly and Senate, the very people the lieutenant governor will need to work with to pass legislation and protect Californians. And because this isn't my first statewide campaign, I'm proud to have the support of over 500 current local elected officials from all 58 counties, because I show up, listen, put in the work, and deliver every day for Californians for the past 3 decades. I've also raised $8.5 million and have $5 million cash on hand, because beating a Republican in November means being ready on day one, not scrambling after the primary. As a woman of color and oldest child of immigrant parents, I've been discounted out many times than I can count. I've been told why I can't win, why I shouldn't run, why it's not my turn. But when Democrats unite behind a candidate who can build coalitions and win races, govern effectively, we don't just break glass ceilings, we protect California's future. I am proven, principled, and a problem solver. I love California, and I would be honored to earn your vote at the convention. Come by my booth. I will have new swag. We will be having a Lunar New Year cultural celebration Friday night from 8:30 to 11 at a local museum close by. And I hope to earn your vote and see you at the convention. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the candidates that have joined us so far today. We're waiting for Shirley Weber to join us. We will be finishing up with our the Secretary of State category. But until she comes on, I will just want to remind you of a few things. One, thank you, delegates, all of you out there, for joining us on this Saturday. This is important work that we do, endorsing candidates, and regional directors had been hearing from all of you that you needed more information and that you would like to have a forum such as this. We hope that you will join us next Saturday morning. We know it's Valentine's Day, but you can kick it off with breakfast with us and all the candidates for governor in that race. So that will be next Saturday at 9 a.m. We are doing the governor races. We have been these forums get recorded, and it takes us a couple of days, but it does get up on our website. You should all have the website address if you signed up for this forum, and you should be able to use the same links going forward.
Hey, Pat?
Yes.
Looks like we're going to be able to go ahead and continue with our next segment.
Oh, okay. All right. So I don't have to stretch anymore. I can go right to our next candidate we have for Secretary of State. Dr. Shirley Weber is joining us, and you will have 3 minutes for your opening statement. You weren't here before, so I will mention that there's a clock that we put up. You'll see it on the right-hand section of your screen, and the upper right of your screen, and there'll be music playing at the end to let you know that the time is up. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thanks all of you who are online and who are listening during this interview process. I'm very honored to have been asked to be here with you As you know, I'm serving and to my really the 5th year, 6 years Secretary of State, appointed by the governor as Secretary of State in 2020 and sworn in that time. And since then, I've been officially elected Secretary of State during the 2022 cycle. I am currently running my campaign. I'm fortunate we don't have Democrats running against each other in many of these seats where we have incumbents, and I'm the incumbent that's running. I'm pleased to be with you because I do think we all know that we're in very difficult times. There's no joke about it that we have real challenges that are facing us in the state. And one of the reasons why, when I was asked to become Secretary of State by the governor and then supported by not only Democrats, but Republicans as well, because I got no votes during my confirmation, it was because I realized that what was happening at that time and what we're facing right now is difficult times, that we have a president, we have an administration who has no regard whatsoever for the Constitution, for the rights of individuals, and sees his efforts and opportunity to take up down California as well as any state with regards to their voting rights and the things that are important. We are currently in a battle to make sure this happens. Many of the other things we do in the office, you know about our business services, our archives, and all those things that are really amazing things that we cover that I'm administrator of. But elections is what is getting the attention, and it should be, because it is so extremely important. And fortunately for us, we have not only myself, but I have a team of attorneys, and we have a team. We have our AG's office as well as the governor supported to fight back in every way we possibly can to maintain California. Some of you probably stay up on what we do and realize that every challenge that we've had, we fought back, we protected the right to vote in California. We just won the right, of course, for Prop 50 to be implemented across the state. We fought to make sure it got on the ballot because they challenged us with that. They've asked for all of our data, all of our information on every Californian, and we have fought back on that, and we have won at that level as well. So we are fighting this battle because we know that voting is extremely important. And my parents were sharecroppers, and obviously I came from a family where grandparents never got a chance to vote. So my parents basically felt voting was such a precious thing in this nation, and they protected it. We had voting in our house. My mother's house was a polling place in California, in Los Angeles. So I fight for this, and I will never give up. And most of you know I don't give in and don't give out. I fight for what is right, what is just, and the integrity of the right to vote is really at peril at this point, and we will fight to make sure it happens. I'm asking for your support to continue the work that we've done, the amazing work of making it so that it is a time when we have young people who are engaged and we're engaged, and turnout that is wonderful across this nation. So thank you so very much. I look forward to answering questions, and obviously I look forward to having the endorsement of the party.
Well, you get your wish, because we are moving on to the question segment, and we have a couple of questions for you.
Good.
You will have 2 minutes to respond. Joanna will be asking the questions.
First question. Elections in California are administered at the county level. How can the Secretary of State ensure that we uphold California values and ensure participation by all voters at the ballot box, free of intimidation?
Well, we've created a number of things. It's administered at the local level, but they have to adhere to state law. And we have a team that actually works with each one of our polling places, our register of voters, to make sure that they're informed. I meet with them every month, make sure they continue to understand the rules and regulations. When we've had difficulty, our legal team goes in to help to recenter those folks in terms of where they need to be. But when they don't, as in Huntington Beach recently, we stop them, we sue them because they went ahead and implemented something that's illegal to put on the ballot over a year ago. We warned them that it was going to happen. And so as a result, we end up suing Huntington Beach recently for their effort to have voter IDs and beyond California's law. And as a result, we won. We won that particular, so that they cannot do that. So we get involved, we get engaged with these places. So they're not just out there on their own. When there's a difficult thing, we're there, we're helping them to understand the law. We're working with each one of them in terms of elections during the time when the election is taking place, to make sure that the attorneys and the lawyers and the police officers in those particular areas understand the law, understand what their responsibilities are, and we work directly with them. So they're just not doing it on their own. We train the new ones that come in to help them understand. We send individuals into their districts and their areas to work with them, because we know that it's important. Many of them don't have all the resources they need to be able to deal with these issues, but we do it with them.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Next question. Recent changes and ongoing challenges at the U.S. Postal Service have raised concerns nationwide about mail reliability and delivery time. Given California's heavy reliance on vote by mail, how is your office educating voters and ensuring that federal level postal changes do not interfere with Californians' ability to cast and have their ballots counted?
Thank you for that question. When we found out about what they were getting ready to implement, we have been out there working and getting information out. We spend millions of dollars letting people know that they are to vote early, that there are certain counties, there's certain areas of where they now have a close postal service, and therefore they don't commit to basically allowing counting those ballots and making sure that they get in. And so we have a campaign talking now about voting early, getting your stuff in, making sure you do that. If you don't, here's what you do. And this is all on our website as well as what we send out to individuals, so that they know that if they have to mail their thing off on the day of the election, take it into the post office and it'll get marked right there, or put it in one of our ballot boxes, because that they get picked up daily. So we give them the information, and we've alerted everybody about it. So we haven't had any real complaints of people bringing in ballots or at a time when they could not be accepted at the post office. We're aware of it. They informed us at the last minute, and they had done some of this at other elections as well. So we work hard to make sure that when they're changing the rules, changing the process, that people are not disenfranchised.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And because you were gracious enough to come on a little early, we're going to give you 3 minutes to do your closing statement. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing. You know, this is an extremely important year. And I think we say that every year this is a very, very important year. But I think all of you know just how important it is right now. Much more than ever before in my lifetime, I've seen the threats that come not just to certain groups, but to all of us. And I was asked more recently about it. I said, I'm not too frantic about it, because when you've been raised in this country and your folks were African Americans, these levels of threats were always there. And you always had to find a way out of the way around it to make it happen. And that's what we've been doing in California. We're registering our high school students. We've done 1.5 million high school students pre-registered to vote. We have something that happens at all of our college campuses. Our students can register online. They can register when they register for their classes. Those things are available. And we work directly with them. We have a team that works with our high school students and others to make sure that they're there. We're working to make sure all of our languages are clear and available and effective with many of our communities across the nation, because California is a very diverse state. So I ask for your support, because this is extremely important to me. It was important to my family. It is important to the people that I know. It is the power that we have to basically have our voice heard. And we are in difficult times because our administration and the federal government is determined to try to break California, determined to fight us. And I can tell you, we have fought them every step of the way, and we've won. And we will continue to win as we fight this battle, because the Constitution is on our side. And that's what we're doing. And we're not afraid to raise these issues, as some elected officials may be across the nation that are secretaries of state. And in fact, they look for us to raise those issues for them, to protect them, because we have a system of not only those who are elected, who understand and we appreciate what we have in California. We are committed to and determined to make sure that we implement the laws of California, that we protect our voters, that we go into areas where we've not gone before and register individuals to vote, and to help them to understand that they will be protected in California. We encourage others to do likewise. We will not give up our vote by mail, and that's the next step. The administration wants to eliminate vote by mail. We won't do that, because then that keeps folks from being intimidated when they can basically vote by mail, versus having to go in and put themselves in a position that many of them are concerned about doing. So I've worked hard over this last 6 years as Secretary of State, but most of you know I work hard all the time. That my legislation has spoke for itself in the state, and my ability to fight for what is right and what is just with all of our agencies and organizations is there. I'm not afraid of anything or anyone, other than the fact that I am concerned that we must all fight at the same time to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. So I'm honored to be your Secretary of State. I ask you for your endorsement, because I know there's much work to do, and it's not a time for those who are weak and concerned and confused. We must be prepared, and I am. So I thank you so very much for your support.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. We really appreciate you coming on. I know that we had your staff scrambling to bring you on, but thank you so much for being available and joining us this morning. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. You guys have a great day, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Take care.
Okay, everyone. So I already gave my closing statement while we were waiting for Dr. Weber, but I just do want to thank you again. Join us next Saturday at 9 a.m. for the Governor's Forum. The recording will be up in a day or two on the RD website. And I look forward to seeing everyone at convention. Thank you to all the regional directors that were on today and weren't on today that helped get this done and bring these forums to you. And with that, we'll say good morning. Go and